So here we are on day 2 of the hot chocolate mug with texture. And my mug is been sitting and it's firmed up. It's leather hard. It's probably at the earlier to middle stages of leather hard. I'd like it to be actually more leather hard before I carve into it. So I just really want to polish it up as far as the design aspects, the rim, the bottom, those types of things today. So you notice I have it sitting on a wear board. It was wrapped overnight in a plastic bag, and I set that whole plastic bag right on top of the wear board. And today I'm ready to work on it. So if you notice when you look inside, it is circular, but not perfectly circular, or as circular as I would like it anyways. The handle looks a little bit rough, and then the bottom. So I'm going to polish those things up. So I'm going to start with the bottom of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by sealing the bottom up a little bit better than I did the first day. And like here, there's a little bit of extra clay, so I could use a potter's knife. I'm just going to use the needle tool though to take off a little bit of extra clay from the bottom here. And then I'm going to use the rib to continue sealing this up better. And let's see, I'm going to use a wooden tool also. Got some slip on it there. You can also use the wooden tool just like the needle tool to get some of that extra clay off of there, although that didn't work as well. Okay, so continuing on. Sealed it pretty good, except for this one little spot. I've got some extra clay, so I'm going to use the rib on the inside. I'm going to use the wooden modeling tool on the inside and the rib on the outside to work that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, once again, to get this out of the way, I'm going to work the edge of it, kind of curving that surface gently around the edge. I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm also going to push in the bottom very slightly so it has a little curve on the underside like this. And if I see anything that looks really amiss here, I'll just smooth that out at this time. All right. I think that all looks pretty good to me. So I'll flip it back over. And when I do my texture, I can work on this bottom a little bit more. I'll probably work on a little bit more before I stop today, but that's good for now. So I'm going to make sure my shape is what I want on the top. And I'm also going to work on the top now. So I want to make that rounded. It's a flat surface where I cut it. If it was really uneven, I could take the sure form and I could very gently kind of even that up by carving into it, but it's even, so I'm not going to do that. So I have these credit cards with the grooves in them, and I have this green tool, and I don't think this one is, actually it's not quite as wide as I want yet. It might work in a little bit. So I'm going to take the credit card and go around the rim, beginning to round it. The thing with ceramics is it's not just do it and be done with it. It's do it, take a look at it, work on it some more, adjust it here, adjust it there. It's definitely a process that requires you to think about it, do some problem solving, work on it, come back, reevaluate it. Okay, you get the idea. All right, so that's pretty rounded there. I'm going to take this now, I'm going to try this one. These grooves are all around the same size. Now what it's doing is it's putting a groove at the top and then a flat edge. So I'm going to use this to kind of fix that.
All right, so it's going to turn it and check it all the way around.
So clay has a memory, which basically means that it'll have a tendency to go back to a certain shape that it was in. So I've noticed my rim is kind of reverting back to a little the misshapenness that it originally was in. So I'll need to keep working at that for a while and reshaping and watching it as it firms up. Okay, I also like to smooth the rim with my finger. So I'm going to take a little bit of water, not sure if that shows up, but just on the table, and then get it on the end of my finger and use that to smooth the rim then. You can also take the sponges and use those. The problem with this is that because the clay has a lot of sand and grog in it, you have a tendency to take that slip off of the piece, that smooth, slippery slip, and it leaves a rough surface of the sand. So I prefer to use my finger. Sometimes I'll use the sponge more for the rough work on something, and then the water in my finger for the smoother part of it. But just that little bit of running the sponge over there, I can feel the grit of the sand that I didn't feel before. So, all right, that actually looks really good. Happy with that. I'm going to check the inside. And so one of the things I didn't do yesterday was really make sure that bottom seam was sealed up good. And so I'm going to check that today. And it actually looks really good. But I'm going to just double check it, reinforcing it. So I'm picking up clay crumbs there. Let me get these out of the way. Now the bottom definitely is not perfectly circular, which is fine with me, but if you do want it more circular, if you can find something that's pretty close to the exact size you want, you could trace a circle and get a nice even circular shape that way. Okay, so that's good. I'm happy with the inside bottom. I'm happy with the rim. I want to work on my handle now a little bit. So it sticks out here pretty far. I want it to go in more, so I'm going to flatten it. So let me lay this down on its side for a minute. I'm going to support it here, and it is, like I said, in the early to mid stages of leather hard. So if I'm careful, sometimes you need to compress your clay as you're doing that, but I can flatten it out a little bit. And what I'm going to do at the same time is I'm going to fix some of these imperfections, things that just look like they were sloppily done, which they're okay at the beginning, but before you finish it up, you need to smooth those and make them all look nice. Now clay is a media or material that I don't worry about perfection with, but I do want it to look nice. So you kind of have to figure that balance or find that balance between something not being perfect but yet looking nice. And for each person, that's a little bit different, as I'm sure you are well aware of. Okay, so I think I've got that pretty good. There's a little lump there. I'm getting rid of that. I'm going to smooth that out now. Okay, I'm going to spin this around, I need to work on that side and I can't see it. But you can see how things look through the inside there. All right, so on my handle, we're going to try that. Now there's a little sharp edge there that I can see now they turned it around. So I'm going to get rid of that sharp edge. Managed to keep it shaped, that's good. All right, the handle looks a little better. A little more squishing. Once again, that concept of it having a memory, it went back partially to where it was. All right, so that's good for 2 fingers there. I have a spot for my thumb. I can tell I need to smooth the inside part of that out. I missed that. Much better. Okay, so I think that for myself, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to check the edges one more time. This is good there. I'll put my name on it the same time that I carve the outside. So what I would do is I would actually let this get more leather hard, kind of at the latter stages of leather hard. Nowhere close to bone dry though. So I would leave it out possibly for a little while and let it firm up. If I let it sit out overnight, it'll be too dry to work on the next day. So it needs to be wrapped. If I want it to continue to get more leather hard, I would wrap it loosely. So let me grab a plastic bag and I'll show you what I mean by that. All right, so here is a plastic bag. And so what I would do is I would put my mug in a plastic bag, and then rather than wrap it super tight like I normally do, where you take the bag and you wrap it around there, and you really don't allow much air in there, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap it up, and I gotta be careful not to distort it. But I'm gonna wrap it up so that it's sealed. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave a little air bubble in there. And that air bubble will allow that clay to dry out a little bit more, but not a lot. The moisture can't really go too far, but what it'll do is it'll allow that moisture to even out among the piece. It'll allow your piece to dry out very slightly. Now I wanna make sure this is sealed though, so I'm gonna wrap it all the way underneath like that. So that's supported good. Put a sticky note with your name, put that in your locker on the shelf, and then possibly next class it'll be ready to go. Now, assuming that next class I want to work on it, and it's not leather hard to where I want it to be, I can blow dry it a couple of times or whatever it takes to get it to that stage when it's ready to carve into. All right, so I'll show you how to carve it on the next video.